Hello, welcome to the European Open briefing for Wednesday, May the 30th. I'm Rafi Boyajan, currency analyst at XM.com, and we're going to be taking a look at what's happening in the currency markets today. So the main headlines this morning: the euro continues to slide down. It's fallen to 10-month lows against the US dollar on the back of that crisis in Italy, where we still don't have a new government. So this is creating demand for safe havens such as the yen and the Swiss franc, and it's led to a sharp sell-off in stocks. Global equities are sharply low, not just in Europe, but in Asia and in the US as well. The dollar, apart from against the yen, it is benefiting from the current risk-off sentiment, as the dollar itself also acts as safe haven. It's now reached, the dollar index has risen to 6.5 months highs. The Canadian dollar is struggling at 2-month lows ahead of the Bank of Canada policy decision later today. So let's now see what's happening in Italy. So yesterday there were reports that the technocrat that was chosen by Italy's president to form an interim government has decided not to go ahead and do that, as after failing to win the support of other parties, and that led to speculation that there could be fresh elections as early as the end of July. So that led to a sharp sell-off in European equities. We saw stocks in Italy, the FTSE MIB falling to a 10-month low, and we saw a huge jump in Italian government bond yields. The 2-year yield surged to a 5-year high. That sell-off is easing a little bit this morning. We're seeing European stocks opening more or less flat this morning, and the euro is attempting to move up. You can see against the dollar, having fallen to a 10-month low of 1.1506 yesterday, is now rebounded to around 1.1570. Against the yen, the euro had slid to an 11-month low, 124.61. It's now approaching the 126 yen level, and against the Swiss franc, it had slumped to an 8.5-month low, 1.1367 yesterday. It's now recovered back above the 1.14 level. We did see some positive German data this morning, so that perhaps helped the euro recover a little bit, but we're also hearing reports that the Five-Star Movement and the League parties are once again trying to form a government in order to avert fresh elections. So that could also possibly be helping market sentiment a little bit this morning. If you look at what's happening with the dollar, we can see the dollar index yesterday having reached a 6.5 months high of 95.03, slightly lower this morning, around 94.70. Dollar yen had fallen to a 5-week low of 108.10 yesterday. It's now attempting a rebound, currently trading around 108.80. We're going to have the second estimate of first quarter GDP growth out of the US later today, but we're going to have even more important data coming up tomorrow and on Friday. We've got the PC inflation on Thursday and non-farm payrolls on Friday. We do have a little bit of trade risks emerging once again this morning. The US has said that it still plans to go ahead and impose 50 billion of tariffs against Chinese imports if China doesn't take action in improving intellectual property rights. So that has perhaps adding to the risk of sentiment. But on the other hand, we've got easing geopolitical concerns over the Korean Peninsula, as reports suggest that the US and the North and South Korean governments are making good progress in terms of setting up that June summit between President Trump and the North Korean leader. Looking at the pound now, although we haven't had much headlines out of the UK recently, the pound has been falling in sympathy with the euro. It slumped to 6 months low, 1.3203 against the US dollar. It's a little bit firmer this morning, around 1.3287. It's also fallen sharply against the yen, falling to 8.5 months low, 143.17. But against the euro, we can see sterling holding its ground against the euro pound. has fallen to 1 month's low. That's a 1 month high for sterling. So we can see that even against the pound, the euro has come under pressure on the back of those concerns about Italy. But apart from what's happening across in Europe, we have seen Brexit uncertainty weighing down on the UK currency more heavily in recent days. The UK government is still undecided on what kind of a customs union, or whether or not it's going to maintain a customs union with the EU once it leaves the bloc. Given the fact that we've got the EU summit coming up at the end of June, where they will be talking about Brexit, this is worrying for investors, and we haven't seen any progress in Brexit talks in recent weeks, and we're now just under a year away till the UK formally leaves the EU. Looking at now other currencies, we can see the Australian dollar had also been falling against the US dollar yesterday. It dropped to 2-week low of 0.7474. It's now rebounded slightly to around 0.7520. And that rebound comes despite the fact that we saw some disappointing numbers out of Australia this morning. We saw building approvals falling by more than expected in April, which raised some doubts about the strength of the Australian economy. We've got more Oz data coming up on tomorrow as well, the quarterly capital expenditure numbers. And if we look at now the Canadian dollar, it's trading fairly close to yesterday's 2 months lows, when the dollar loonie rose to 1.3047. So the Canadian dollar has come under pressure from plunging oil prices, as well as, of course, the stronger US dollar. We're going to have a Bank of Canada policy decision later today. They're expected to hold rates at 1.25%, mainly as the future of that NAFTA remains in doubt. The Bank of Canada is unlikely to resume hiking rates until we see some resolution there. And if you look at today's economic calendar, we can see it's going to be quite a busy day. We already had quite a few numbers already: German numbers, Australian data, as well as Japanese retail sales, which came in above expectations. We've got the Eurozone economic sentiment index coming up very shortly, and German flash inflation numbers. In the US, we're going to have the ADP employment numbers, which could be an indication of what to expect from NFP on Friday, as well as the GDP numbers and the Bank of Canada decision. That's it from me. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.